Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Today is October 5th, 2025, and our talk today is Bridge Over Troubled Waters. And I looked up the words that Paul Simon and Garfunkel created. I think Paul Simon actually wrote it. And the words at the end of the song are like a bridge over troubled waters. I will ease your mind. And I like that because I feel like oftentimes right now we have to be a bridge over the troubled waters because so many of us are troubled by what's going on in our country right now. And we can feel so helpless and upset, all of which is not good for us. And so, our basic teaching in the science of mind, as taught by our founder, Ernest Holmes, is that our minds are connected to the mind of God and that we're always creating our life based on what we're thinking and believing and expecting. And so it puts us in the driver's seat of our life. But it's also a huge responsibility because if you spend your time fearing and being upset, you are creating what you don't want. You're creating upset in your life. And at the time that I learned this teaching, there was a lot of upset in my life. And I had to learn to change how I was thinking and to expect what I would like to see happen instead of what I was seeing happen. And that can seem like quite a task because this also means your feelings, because our feelings follow our thoughts. And so we want to calm our upset feelings and be like that bridge over troubled waters. And how in the world do we do that? Well,
I think that's about it. I think we can stop here.
how do we do that?
Well, I know how I do it. It's
How?
no, 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 no. It's hard to do that all during the news, but it's denial,
And
avoidance.
some people just avoid the news
Yeah,
right now
yeah.
because it upsets them too much. And that's one way of dealing with circumstances. But it's not the way Ernest Holmes, our founder, recommended. And so I would like to share what he says. It may seem like it's not a quick way, but in fact, it is a quick way to change the way you're feeling. He writes, love does not overcome hate and fear through controversy, argument, or force, but by a subtle power of transformation, transmutation, and sublimation. So transformation is changing the form, and transmutation is also changing the form. It's muting something, making it less. And I'm not even going to go into sublimation, but it is invisible in its essence, but apparent through its act. As light overcomes darkness, and as the presence of heat warms a cool room until it is comfortable, so the radiant action of love and peace dissipates fear, hate, and confusion. So that is a profound statement. So, how do we do it?
So one of my very first jobs when I was very, very young was selling Fuller Brush door to door. And Fuller Brush is a company, I don't even know if they exist anymore, but it's they had all kinds of stuff. So I'm headed toward this one
But
door.
mostly brushes.
But well, they started out with brushes, and then they had house cleaning and everything you can think of, everything from
There
there.
used to be a lot of door-to-door
Yeah,
salesmen
yeah.
in those
So
days.
there I was carrying my stuff, and I get to the door, and before I get to the door, I see the Venetian blind open, and I see somebody peek out. And before I could get to the door opens, which I was pleased because I thought this person's eager to see me, and they let out their Doberman. And the Doberman he stops and he looks at me, and then he begins to run toward me. The
Oh,
owner of the
run.
Doberman was sending out her dog to make sure that either I was going to leave the property or be bitten as I tried to leave. Now, here's where it ties together with what Ernest Holmes said. I just sat down in the yard and looked down. And the Doberman slowed his run, came up to
What
me
is this strange creature?
and looked at me. I turned my head, I looked up at him and then looked back down again. He looked at me. He laid down, rolled over, and wanted me to rub his belly, which I did. At that point, the woman who was behind the blind stopped looking through the blinds, and the dog had become my best friend, and we went on. But I think it's the troubled
Great
water.
metaphor.
The troubled water can be anywhere. And I'll tell you, there's two things that you think about doing. One is I can defend myself against this dog or this condition or this circumstance, or I can run like hell. And I think we spend a lot of time mentally doing both, when in fact sometimes we just need to sit down and contemplate and go to that place that Ernest Holmes is talking about that is so hard to go to when we're upset or we think we're right. I call it righteous rage. Whenever we have
think
that,
we need to fight.
right, whenever we have that righteous rage, there's not much we can't do that isn't reasonable. And that really doesn't help. Now, the dog, I was on his property, so he had a right to defend it. But I'm also a person who shouldn't be bitten, so I have a right not to be bitten. And we could have argued about that and probably all the way to the doctor's office because that wouldn't have worked. And so to sit down wherever you are, to find that space inside of you where kindness lives, where love exists, where compassion lives, and to be able to allow that changes everything. They'll clearly change the energy because the dog was looking for my fearfulness or my rage, my anger, my ready to fight. And he saw neither. And at that point decided I wasn't a threat. And so part of what I'm also getting at is when we enter into a world where there's conflict and we react with our own feelings of conflict, we stir the pot. We are not an example of what could happen if there were nobody stirring the pot. And so when we come in as either neutral or with kindness, we change the whole chemistry of the circumstance, which is huge. And so I think as we look at the troubled waters that many of us are facing today, I think we really need to have that life preserver. And the life preserver is love. And what happens when there's a wave, if you're wearing the life preserver correctly, is you rise with the wave and you come down with the wave. The wave will not overtake you unless you deflate that life preserver. And that life preserver is love. Now, sometimes it gets deflated when we bring it, we say, I'm entering into this relationship with love and kindness. And the person says something that isn't love and kind, hooks that part of us that is not feeling safe, and we're deflated. And as soon as we're deflated, we're in combat. And we become as dangerous as the person who is, quote, wrong or attacking us.
Exactly. And so, how do we get to that place of love when we're feeling upset or angry?
Move to Greenland.
That's one way. Another is, for me, it's always just going within. And if you don't meditate regularly, I recommend learning how. And it's really the learning how is more in the doing than getting instruction, which is just, being quiet and still and thinking about your connection with God. And that just simply brings you to such a peaceful state. When you practice, when I first started, of course, I just, it was like twiddling thumbs and what am I doing here? And when can I get up and do something, but the more you do it, the longer you can just be in the peace and feeling peaceful in love. And that is so good for your body and so good for your thoughts because you can steer your thoughts into more positive expectation. You need to be expecting good things to happen in your life. I mean, you don't need to, you can do anything you want, but we tend to create what we are doing with our minds. So it's an important practice to learn.
Right. So some more short stories. Today's my day for animal stories. Grandmother explains to her son on the phone that she has adopted a very large but very beautiful cat that is, and she feeds this cat every day. And he is trying to find out what kind of cat it is, and she's trying to explain it to him. And but no matter what his question is about the cat appears to be bigger than that. And he thinks maybe it's a very, very large Maine Coon cat. So he then watches the video of the door cam and sees that she's going out every morning. She doesn't see very well. She's going out every morning and putting out food for a mountain lion. And the mountain lion gracefully eats the food on a regular basis. And so the son says, "This is terrifying." And because mom has no life insurance, I made that up. But so, so they go to a vet and a zoo vet, and they said, "How could this happen? How could she go out and stand there feeding this mountain lion and the mountain lion not kill her?" And he made a very interesting observation. He said, "She's not afraid, and since she's not afraid, the cat knows that she is not afraid. They can smell the fear. And since she's not afraid, then she must be in charge.
Dangerous. Oh.
She must be in charge. She is the, what do you call what people is
Alpha?
in charge of everything?
The matriarch?
Matriarch. She's the matriarch." And so he says, "Okay, this is fine." And he allows her to be in charge because she is in charge of not being afraid. And that's incredible. And the second one is even more interesting than this. An autistic child lost in the woods ends up coming home finally. But what they find when they look at the cameras that they have in the forest to monitor the animals is that he's walking with a pack of wolves, and they're not eating him, and they're not attacking him. And here he is walking along, and the wolves are walking right along with him. If we can have interspecies peace, if we can be kind enough and loving enough to those that we think are so different from us that there's no way we can get along, if we can somehow allow kindness to enter into it, maybe we can get along. And I use those examples because if some of you out there are Democrats and some of you are Republicans, and you have discovered that the other person on whatever side they are is another species, you may have species rage and decide that that's not an okay species. So we're going to have to really figure out, if we can, how we can walk with wolves, how we can feed mountain lions, how we can sit down and not be attacked by a Doberman who's protecting his property.
So can I share a little bit more
No,
about Ernest Holmes and love? So Ernest Holmes reminds us that love is not a weapon to win an argument, but a light that gently dissolves the shadows of fear and hate. Love transforms without fanfare. It warms like sunlight, not through force, but through its very presence. And so, with today's social media and posts swirling about, it can feel as if we're more divided than ever. And yet perhaps what's really happening is that we're discovering the breadth and depth of each other's stories. But this is so important to control our own minds, our own feelings, because that's creating our own life. And I'm not saying go along with everything. I'm saying I do believe in speaking out and speaking our truth and saying what we think is right or wrong, but from a place of love, because that is controlling our health and our life and our expectation. And it just, I found it so important to learn to do that. When I first was learning these principles, there was a person that I knew in our center in Fort Lauderdale that was hearing about carjackings and things with people with guns in Miami. And so he decided he really needed to have a pistol in his car because, stuff happens. And he did buy a pistol, kept it in his car, and he ended up having to be confronted with that very situation. And what I wondered afterwards, I think he survived. He survived, but he did pull his pistol out, and that just created more conflict of somebody else pulling a pistol. And I wondered if that would have happened if he hadn't bought and carried the pistol in his car, because that's saying, I'm expecting trouble. I have to be prepared. And that's what he got. He got trouble. And so I decided at that point I will never have a pistol in my car because it seems like inviting conflict. So those are the subtle things that we believe in that we can do, just to not expect, those kinds of confrontation and abuse. There were many times when I would call my minister to do treatment if I thought that someone that I loved was in danger. And he would do a treatment on the phone. He would do a spiritual mind treatment on the phone, which is an affirmative prayer, knowing that all is well. That would calm me down. And at one point, I thought my sister was in danger, and she worked at a 7-Eleven kind of store. It wasn't 7-Eleven, but that kind of store. And she was worried that she was in danger. And she called the police, and the police would not come unless a crime had been committed. So that's when I called our minister. It's like, whoa, that's a little late if you wait for the crime to be committed. And he did a treatment, and the danger disappeared. But she did have a situation with someone come in with a gun, and was very frightened. So it can seem like magic, and it can seem like, well, do you really believe in magic like that? No, but I did learn that this worked. We would say this stuff works.
But you're making room for a different outcome.
Yeah, well, like you and the dog.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I was doing a workshop in Buffalo, and they told me not to go outside of the hotel at night because the streets were not
That's
necessarily safe. And
that's
so I'm walking down the street. I went out anyway because I've been in big cities before, and there's a guy walking behind me, and he says, "You got a quarter?" And I didn't say anything. He said, "You got 50 cents?" I didn't say anything. And then he said really quietly, "You got $1?" I turned around. I said, "You think if I had $1, I'd be in Buffalo?" He said, "Good point, man. Good point."
it disarmed him. Huh?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of ways to disarm. Humor is one of the ways we can disarm, and one of the ways we disarm our fear and our frustration. We watch probably more comedy news programs now than we ever watched before because we need to be able to combine some laughter with the absurdity. We need to be able to, and what comedy really is to some extent is an exaggeration to the point of it's being funny. We exaggerate conditions that often are not as bad as we think they are to the point where they could be and realize how absurd it is to be as upset as we are about the condition when we can survive it or we can change it. We cannot last many of the conditions that are going on. Some of the things going on right now, I believe, are things we're going to have to outlast. And I think what will happen is not that nothing is happening while we're waiting for an opportunity to intervene. We're also learning from the experiences that we're having with what's going on right now about what we don't want to have, what we don't want to have to see again. And so I think it's all part of learning, and we need to wait for perfect timing, and we need to be in a perfect place for that perfect timing for us to take the action that's useful.
And I was reading some recommendations uh, from an organization called Heart Math.
Good people.
There is
Lot of heart.
a lot of heart, and they believe that the heart is a much more important organ than just pumping blood. But that one of their practices is to breathe into the heart. And they say, do this several times a day. You may need to do it several, just to center yourself and calm yourself and to know that all is well, regardless of whatever upset is happening right now. Because again, you create your health, you create your experience, and you want to create a positive experience.
No, I may not be correct in all of this, but I understand that the cells that we have in our brain that help us reason and figure things out, there is an abundance of those cells in the heart. So the heart actually thinks that as the heart communicates back and forth with the brain and they talk to each other. And so the heart has its own intelligence, which is what heart math is really saying, is there's an intelligence in the heart like there is in every organ of the body. Well, interesting, in Indonesia, there was a man who discovered a crocodile that had been shot. This is my day for animals. And why a man would bring a crocodile that had been shot home without a plan to eat it or skin it is beyond me. But he brought this crocodile home, and he was a very big crocodile, so he was a very little man with a lot of strength. He removed the bullets from the crocodile, and the crocodile survived. The crocodile then spent its nights with him, sleeping with him, never eating him, and he was bite-sized. And then the crocodile goes out during the day and does its hunting. The crocodile has a brain about the size of an acorn and has a heart that's bigger than ours. And one would wonder, did the heart of the beast understand that he was loved and cared for and not hurt the man who took care of him? And there's just so many stories like this. I think it's so important to hear these stories, because what we need to think of is it's a bigger world than we think it is. There's greater consciousness that we can connect with than we often realize. Some of us are dying from the smallness of our own thinking, not from the possibility of connecting with an even greater mind. The more that there is so much more that we're just scratching the surface of it. And we settle for a street fight, with whatever is going on in the world. And we all know that it's bigger than that. Norman Cousins, I was just reading about him, who was a man who was given a diagnosis of a fatal disease. And so here he is facing in his world, nobody else's world, that he's going to die. And the question is, how is he going to live until he dies? And he says, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die laughing. I'm going to die feeling good. So he goes to a motel. This is back.
He was supposed to be hospitalized.
Yeah, and he said, I'm not going to die in a hospital. It's where everybody else goes to die. I don't want to be in a hospital where what people are is either sick and getting sicker or sick and going to leave, and I don't get to leave. So he said, I'll go to a motel. I'll rent a bunch of videos.
Fancy hotel.
Fancy hotel? Okay.
Fancy
I
hotel.
thought it was a 7-Eleven.
He said, if I'm going to spend that amount of money, it's going to be in a nice hotel.
Whoa, so I didn't get that part of the story.
Yeah.
So I was thinking,
Nice hotel.
I thought it was
with food
I
service.
thought it was the budget inn. So, no, so he goes to a Ritz-Carlton, as I recall, and he brings a bunch of videos with him, which tells you how long ago this was, and watches, endless numbers of videos that are all comedy, and he laughs himself well. Wow.
That's right. An incurable disease. A strange disease, not a common disease.
It's not a disease you laugh at. But he did.
And he laughed himself well.
He laughed himself well. Are we
So that talks about the power then
Yeah.
of what we create with our minds and our emotions.
So are we crying ourselves sick? Are we making ourselves sick in a situation where we need to be healthy to see ourselves through? So as we are confronting conflict in the world and we become a part of the conflict, it's like us all joining everyone running toward the cliff, as opposed to saying, hey, there's got to be a laugh in here somewhere. This is too absurd to allow it to eat up my life and my heart and my soul. And so our life preserver in some cases is laughter. Our life preserver is kindness. Our life preserver is taking a breath, sitting down in the yard and picking dandelions when you're being attacked by a Doberman. Yeah.
And just remember that transformation is something that happens slowly and gradually.
Good point.
It doesn't happen instantly, although instantly you can change your mood when you change it from fear to faith, to believing in the best. And we do want to believe in the best that is unfolding.
It always amazes me how much longer it takes for the apple pie to be baked than for you to be able to smell it baking. You can smell it. It's pie. You know it. You walk by the oven. It's not ready. You wait. It's not ready. It's cooking. And so then you take it out and it's still not ready because it's not cooled down enough.
It's too hot.
Yeah. So we're ready for the apple pie before it's ready. That doesn't mean we can't celebrate the fragrance. We can't celebrate recognizing that the apple pie will soon be ready. And if you're really, really blessed, you really have a God out there that loves you, you will find not only is the apple pie ready for you, you'll have some French vanilla ice cream to go with it.
That'll make anybody smile.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, and then talk about the end times. Okay, I don't care about the end times. I'm having my apple pie. and ice cream. Yeah. So anyway, those are some of our thoughts for today.
Yes, let's be bridges
Yes.
over troubled water,
Yes.
staying above it,
So
staying
I think this
above
would be
the
a good
troubled
time for you
water.
to do a treatment.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So what do we know?
We know. Let's know.
So we know that there's one power in the universe for good. And we know that that power is operating all of the time, not just whenever we're in the mood for it. So we agree right here and right now that we are in the mood for, ready for, expecting, looking forward to, and enjoying that God in us, as us, is working through us. And knowing that this is true and that at every moment and every breath of our life is filled with love and kindness and joy and possibility, we say yes to the celebration of life amidst what may appear to be conflict or struggle. And so we do not believe in appearances, we believe in the truth. And the truth is that love is everywhere present right here and right now. And we are in the midst of a celebration of that love. And for that, we say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is.
So it is.
You did a
Well
really good
done.
treatment.
You were on fire with that one. That was beautiful. That's great. So I'd like to share a screen right now.
Oh, yes. And by the way, we had our first contribution from a person who has listened to us, that's not attended our services. And we're so grateful for that. And we'd like to invite all of you who listen to share your wealth. And
Exactly. Yeah, that was so nice to receive a contribution to our center for from someone in California.
yes,
Because we get confirmation every week that about 100 people watch
that's right.
our talks, and that's great.
And every day that this happens, I feel like this is PBS. We're saying 1 in 10 people are supporting us. Yes, well, and that may be true, but what we feel the spiritual support of a universe that cares about what we do, and we're saying thank you to this universe out there that is in favor of what we're doing, and in favor of what you're doing, and in favor of the love that we're sharing. And so we're asking you today to invest today in us and in yourselves. And so what we teach is loving and caring and supporting what we believe encourages, empowers, enriches, and allows it to flow. And so if you want to donate to us today, ways to donate is on our web screen here that you can see. You can click it, ways to donate, and you can donate any number of ways you want to donate. So what we say here today together is,
Our affirmation is
yep,
my investment
today
today is
is
made
made
with a
with the
full
full
realization
realization
that
that
God
God
is
is
the
the
source
source
of
of my
my
supply
supply
and
and
returns
returns
it
it
to
to
me
me
enriched
enriched and
and
multiplied.
multiplied.
As I give, I do receive.
That's right. Stop share and stop recording.